Today's topic I want to share with you is about comfort zones and the safety that there is in comfort zones, because there are three things that we should explore. There are good things, bad things, and what we can do with them. So this comes from the fact that musicians generally tend to be, in my experience anyway, on four continents, very flexible and very committed to multiple different types of relationships and processes. So, as we explore today the fact that there is safety in comfort zones, I want to see how we can actually get trapped in comfort zones as performers and as audience members, and what we can do about that, and why that's sometimes healthy and why that's sometimes not. Because if we don't know what a comfort zone is, it's where we feel comfortable, basically. And I'd love to know in your comments, what was the last thing that you did that was actually brand new to you? The last time you did something new? Because if you think about it, almost everything we've done was new at some point, right? I mean, at some point we had never done a task or an activity or had a conversation with someone before, and it was new to us. So we repeat those experiences. We get to do them again and again, and that's where we develop our comfort zones. We like what's familiar. All right, that's what a comfort zone is. It's what we find familiar and what we like doing and what we feel comfortable and experienced in. And there are good things and bad things about that, which I want to talk about. Now, what we often do, particularly the older we get, in my experience, as I'm finding, is that we like our comfort zones. We want more and more of our comfort zones. And we're less and less willing to try stepping out of our comfort zones. In fact, when we do, we often leave one foot in the boat. If you think of like a comfort zone as a boat floating on the water, like a little rowboat, then that's your comfort zone. That's where you feel comfortable playing certain repertoire, or listening, if you're an audience member, listening to certain kinds of music or a certain genre of music, meeting the same kinds of people. That's all in our boat, our little rowboat. So when you step outside, when you put one foot outside, we're now stepping out of our comfort zone. And that can be an exciting thing, but it can also be a terrifying thing. But I love what Lisa Nichols said. She's a motivational speaker, and the fear that we get when we step outside, when we leave our comfort zone, is probably why we don't do it more often. But Lisa Nichols was very, very clear when she said that fear is not the enemy. I love that. I think that's awesome. Now, how does that apply to us in the DMS and to musicians or music life around the world? It depends on what your experience, what you're used to. When we get used to something, we like it, and we're often less likely to try something different. I'm actually going to use an example of restaurants here, okay? Because I like going to new restaurants. And if I can go 2, 3, 4, 5 times to try different things, great, wonderful. But you know what tends to happen? I always tend, and I don't know why this is, but I usually end up going with that first thing, that first kind of meal. Whenever we go back there, I end up ordering the same meal that I had the very first time, because I know it, it's comfortable, I know how it's going to be presented, I know what it tastes like, I know what's in it. And I very rarely try different types of meals. Once in a while I will. But I think it's kind of sad that I don't, I associate that restaurant with different items that they have on the menu. So that's my comfort zone, is when I do try a new restaurant, I like to try something that's familiar. And I'm kind of worried about and fearful about trying something different. But Lisa Nichols was absolutely right. Fear is not an enemy. We can use fear. We can actually embrace the fear of trying something new ourselves. And I'm seeing lots of good stuff coming out here in the comments. So thanks for sharing what was new to you. The last thing that you did was new. That was stepping outside of your comfort zone. Jeff, playing the violin after 40 years. That is stepping outside your comfort zone, dude. Well done. So there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives that we are familiar with and that we like and that we know. And as I said, we feel confident and comfortable about. As soon as we start doing things that we're less confident about, that's when the fear kicks in. But let's talk about the fact that comfort zones can actually be good. There are good things about comfort zones. And what are they? Well, comfort zones can actually help us, first of all, feel accomplished. When we feel accomplished, we want to do more of it. We actually pat ourselves on the back. It makes us feel good. So that's why we keep repeating what we are familiar with. We like feeling that way. We like feeling confident. We like to be the expert. We like to be in an environment where we know things. So it's good to be in our comfort zone to demonstrate that and to make ourselves feel good. And therefore, because we're not worried about what other people think of us and all this kind of stuff, we're not nervous about what's going to happen because we just don't know. When we're in our comfort zone, we can help other people enjoy more music. When we attend a concert and we're going to go and listen to a group or to some music that we're familiar with, then we can bring other people with us because we know what to expect. We know it's this kind of sound, it's this kind of style, it's this kind of environment, and we don't mind sharing that with people because we feel good about it. And in fact, in some cases, we feel like the expert. We feel like a bit of a host, which I think is awesome. When you go to a concert and you're familiar with everything and the environment and maybe even some of the people, you can bring people with you, and that is a terrific thing to do. So we feel accomplished when we are in our comfort zone. But it also means that when we are within our comfort zone, we can adjust what it is that we're doing. We can just take us a moment to take what we are used to doing and just change it slightly to make it even more comfortable. That doesn't necessarily mean changing direction or trying something completely new. Our comfort zones are good because we can adjust ourselves, the way we do things. We can get better. As long as we're better today than we were yesterday, then you're making progress, right? So being able to do that in our comfort zone, we can do that because we have the confidence to actually push this music a little bit better, maybe play it a little bit faster or even slower, to play it maybe a little quieter or even louder, to try a different type of concert or a different ensemble, to attend a concert instead of playing in everything. There are lots of things that we can do to actually adjust our life and make our life better within our comfort zones. And then the third thing is we don't necessarily need to limit our comfort zones to just one activity. We can have lots of different activities. If you imagine a little harbor, little village harbor, okay, on the sea, and you've got lots of little rowing boats in there and they're all tied up together. You can jump from one little boat to another with no problem because they're all the same. They all look the same. They all are buoyed the same way. They're all kind of the same size. So you can jump from boat to boat, your comfort zone to comfort zone, because you're familiar with all of those things. But just remember one thing. They were all new activities at some point. At some point in your life, you hadn't done that thing before. Okay, but we develop these comfort zones, make us feel accomplished. We can adjust our lives and the comfort zones that we have. We can make them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and we can jump from one activity to the next because we have more than one different comfort zone in an area, such as performing in some cases, being an audience member in other cases, maybe attending church here or attending university there, or whatever it is that you do. You have these environments that are familiar. How many times have you tried a different grocery store? You always go to the same grocery store? Because it's a comfort zone. You know how it works. You know its processes. You know where everything is. You're familiar with everything. Maybe even have a loyalty card. But there's nothing stopping you going to a different location of that grocery store. So that's how you adjust that. How often do we actually go to completely different grocery stores? It's very rare. So that's what's good about comfort zones. The fact that we do feel accomplished, we can adjust, and we're not limited to one activity. What I don't like about comfort zones is the fact that they are actually very limiting. Comfort zones limit us quite a lot as human beings. When we get stuck in our comfort zones and we don't try something new, we don't try something different, we box ourselves in. Now, if you've been following any of my materials for the last 10, 15 years or so, you will know one of my favorite phrases. In fact, let's start it this way. One of the phrases I hate the most, I really dislike, is think outside the box. I really can't stand that. Okay, it's easy to see what that means and all that kind of stuff, but I just can't stand that phrase. What I've been saying, if you, as I said, if you've been following me on my website or anywhere else for any length of time, this is what I say. Don't be fooled. There is no box. Think about that. Don't be fooled. There is no box. Because even if there is a box that we perceive around us, who put it there? We did, right? Nobody else did. They may have suggested it, they may have influenced us, but we allowed that box to appear. When in the real world, there is no box. You can step outside and do other things and step out the boat, all that kind of stuff. So what is it about comfort zones? Comfort zones are like our boxes, okay? We need both heart and mind stimulation. It's not one or the other. Now, it's fascinating how I prepared this topic a month ago, and yet this very weekend, this past few days, this has been an issue that's been coming up in my life, particularly about living in the head or living in the heart. Well, you know what? Both need stimulation. It's not either or. We know. We need. I'm sorry, I just saw a comment. Yeah, there is no spoon. That's true. So we need heart and mind stimulation, and comfort zones tend to limit us to one or the other. You either get very, I don't want to say soft and feminine. That's not reality, but we get into flow. We get into the feeling of things, and men and women have this. Okay, so this is why I don't like saying that. The soft feminine side, but we all have that softer side of things, that feeling side of things. And if we rely on our feelings, we're never going to step out of the boat. We're never going to get outside of our comfort zone because we are frightened of doing that. But if you live in your head and all you do is think logically about things, then you don't get to experience life as a human, because that cerebral thinking element, it's all assessment, analysis, critical, whatever, then you miss out on so much. But you can get yourself into that comfort zone where you like to think about things and you don't let yourself feel things. You can approach musically, whether you're listening or whether you're performing, you can approach it analytically or technically. You can sit at the stage and watch what's going on and pick out who's doing what, whether they could have done that better, if somebody dropped a pencil or if somebody over there dropped a drumstick, or you can look at things analytically. That's living in the head. Or you can let the music flow over you and you start imagining pictures in your mind. You start getting goosebumps. I mean, that's the ultimate, right? For any musician, is to actually have somebody, musicians as well as audience members, feel those goosebumps. So be careful about limiting or letting your comfort zones limit you to either head or heart stimulation. You do need both. The other problem is that you can get left behind. You don't want to be left behind, do you? The world is going to constantly move on, whether you like it or not. Nothing is going to stand still. And people who say that they hate change, they're just limiting themselves to their comfort zones. Unfortunately, however much we want to not change and keep things the same, it ain't gonna happen. The actual sheer physics of the universe is constantly moving. The world, I mean, if you don't want change, then let's stop the world spinning. See what will happen then, right? It's going to change. So you can, if you choose to focus and limit yourself within your comfort zones, however many you have, then the world is going to move on without you and you're going to get left behind. I've seen it so many times. It is so sad. Young people, old people, middle-aged people, they develop this thing where they find where they're comfortable at and they stay there, and before you know it, and of course, because the technological world is just getting faster and faster, and the world is getting smaller with communications, it's very, very quick and easy to get left behind everyone else and just not be a part of what's going on and the exciting stuff that people are doing with their heads and their hearts. The other thing I just wanted to mention about the fact that comfort zones are limiting is the fact that discovery, if you want to actually discover something, if you actually want to learn something new, if you want to, if you think there's more to life or music or listening, then there probably is. And it's going to be on the other side of your comfort zone. Does that make sense? Discovery is made on the other side of your comfort zone. You have to step out of the boat. Of course, if you want to keep one foot in the boat that you're in your comfort zone, that gives us more confidence. But if you can put both feet in, if you can jump out of one boat into another wholeheartedly, you're going to experience joy and discovery and fear and all these other things together at the same time, and life just gets so much better. So instead of going to an orchestral concert and you see all the masterworks with Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and whatever else, and that's the only kind of concert that you go to, if you step out of the boat with one foot, that to me suggests something like you're going to an orchestral concert that's now playing Stravinsky or Elliott Carter, or just, it's just some weird, wonderful, modern, contemporary music out there. Harrison Birtwhistle, even, if you dare. All right, so that's just stepping out your comfort zone with one boat. Now, what if instead of going to an orchestra concert, you either went to a concert band, which is kind of the same, but how about even a salsa band? Because if you go to a salsa band, you now have to dance. How can you sit there and not, right? But how would you know? How would you experience that unless you jump in with both feet? That's what it's like. Your comfort zone is orchestral, traditional masterwork pieces. Putting one foot outside your comfort zone is going to an orchestra that plays different kind of music, contemporary music. And then stepping out of your comfort zone with both feet means trying something completely different. Okay? So comfort zones can be very limiting. And what you need is both heart and head stimulation. You don't want to be left behind. And if you want to learn or discover anything new and not be bored, basically, then discovery is made on the other side of comfort zones. So what do we do with this? What do we do with the fact that comfort zones are good, but they're also limiting? Well, this was fascinating to me when I learned this quite a long time ago, in fact, that you actually have not only permission, but you have the responsibility to take charge of your comfort zone and grow them. We grow our own comfort zones. Remember before when we said you can do lots of different activities and have lots of different comfort zones? All of those different activities were new at some point. Many musicians in the world have what you might want to call a day job. Okay, so they're doing music in one comfort zone and they've got their day job in another comfort zone. Well, what if you lose your job or you have to move to a completely different profession or do something completely different? That's a whole new comfort zone. And that may be forced upon us, especially with COVID right now, over the last few months. So you get to choose what activities you do and which ones become your comfort zones. And the way that you do that is to, first of all, just identify what you like and what you want. There's a difference between wanting and needing. We know that, okay? But whatever your desires are, you can choose to nurture them. Nurture your desires. That's how you develop and grow a comfort zone, even if you're within a comfort zone here. Like we said with the orchestra, if you go to see masterworks with Beethoven and Tchaikovsky, you can nurture your desires for more orchestral music and expand out to include things like Ravel or Debussy or Saint-Saëns or all those early French guys, or even Elgar, which is very head stimulation, not so much heart. So you can expand and nurture your desires for more orchestral music, or more band music, or more salsa music, or whatever kind of music that you want and that you're interested in. But the exciting thing is that we can in fact produce a good balance of stuff that's new to us and stuff that we're comfortable with. This is how you grow your comfort zones, is to keep a good balance. If everything you did was within your existing comfort zones, you are not going to grow, you're not going to develop as a person, you're not going to enjoy life all that much. It's going to become so routine, you're going to get bored really quickly. And again, I see it all the time. Usually when I'm standing in front of an ensemble of players, it's pretty easy to pick up within minutes who is stuck in their comfort zones. But if you have everything new, if you're constantly trying new things, then you find no stability in life. You find no reassurance. You don't get your feet on the ground. So trying new things all the time, going to a completely different restaurant and trying every meal on the menu and never repeating again, and then never going back to that restaurant again, in fact, after you've tried their entire menu, that's not healthy either, because you don't find something that makes you feel accomplished, that you can just adjust a little bit, that feels like home. Again, you need that heart stimulation as much as the head stimulation. So you need a good balance between the two. You can choose to balance what's in your comfort zone and what new comfort zones you're going to try outside. Yeah, okay, I'm going to read that comment. Very good point. Growth does get uncomfortable. Joshua just said that in the comments. But let's refer back to what Lisa Nichols said. Fear is not the enemy. Okay? It's not a bad thing. Fear is not a bad thing. So yes, it can get uncomfortable. And that's probably why we don't step out of our boats, why we don't step out of our comfort zones. But it's not the enemy. It's actually helpful. It actually makes us more human. Imagine if nobody had got into a boat and crossed the Atlantic Ocean and found a different country, like Australia or something. Imagine if that never happened. Imagine if India was never discovered, or Japan, or wherever we, however we grew as humans. Somebody somewhere went somewhere that was new to them, because they understood fear. They realized that fear can be healthy. It keeps us alert, and as long as we're kind of preparing ourselves for what's on the other side, even though we don't know what it is. What is it? Who was it? Magellan, who went around the world, right? I think he was just trying to find one particular place to go and never found it. That's how he ended up circumnavigating the world, because he never actually found the destination he was heading for. So that's a fascinating thing, is that you choose a good balance. You need those comfort zones in order for you to get out of your comfort zones in other areas. You have a home to come back to. And then, of course, the last thing about the fact that you grow your own comfort zones is that you can choose a different path, because who knows, maybe you like something new that you tried a lot better. Jeff mentioned in his comments that he is playing the violin again after 40 years. What if that comfort zone becomes his, or that adventure, that activity becomes his new comfort zone? And the instruments that he's played before and over the last 40 years kind of now get, secondary. We just don't know until you try. So you can choose a different path in life, a different activity, a different thing to do, because you tried it one time. You stepped out of the boat and you liked it and you want to do more of it. So we grow our comfort zones, we get them bigger, we get a bigger boat, turn it into a yacht, turn it into a ship if you want. As long as you also step into other little boats every once in a while, just to appreciate what you got. I really hope this is helping you, because comfort zones are something that are misunderstood tremendously. And I really do think that things like understanding that comfort zones are good things, but they are also very limiting. It's important to know both of those things. It's important to feel accomplished, to actually do different activities, to stimulate our heart and mind so that we don't get left behind, and to appreciate that new things, discoveries about ourselves, about the world that we live in, are on the other side of the comfort zone, and that we choose to grow our comfort zones. We choose to nurture our desires, to find a good balance, which may even lead us down another path if we want to. We just don't know until you try.